So here today we have this Chinese knockoff carburetor. Came off of a 125cc pit bike. You'll find these carbs on any no-name bike or Chinese bike like a Geo or just some sort of Chinese knockoff. Now today we're going to be going in depth on the carburetor. We're going to be doing every nook and cranny. And so the basic two things you need for a carb clean is a tiny flathead and a Phillips. You can get a pick if you want, and a pair of pliers is also necessary. For cleaning the jets, I usually take a wire from a wire wheel. I don't know if you guys can see that, but I use a wire from a wire wheel to clean my pilot. And for my main jets, I use torch tip cleaners. So these are torch tip cleaners that you'd use to clean welding torches, and they work really well for main jets. Once you get to a bigger carb size, you can clean your pilot jet with a torch tip, but it starts to get really hard. And so this carb clean will go for basically all carburetors. I will be going real in depth. Okay, so this is already a clean carb, but I'm just going to show what you would do if this was a dirty carb. So first of all, you need to take off your bowl. Most carbs have a simple Phillips screws. Some newer carbs will actually have rivets from the factory. If you have rivets, you can drill those out, and if you have a tap and die set, you can use the tap set to tap yourself a hole for a bolt. Now don't be worried about anything falling out on you. There should be nothing that falls out. So in here we're going to have gas. I'm going to get some rags here so you don't make a mess. Okay, so as you can see, this is an immaculate carb. So right here is your overflow. That is your overflow. On some carbs it'll be different. And that controls your overflow. Sometimes that'll be leaking, and usually that's just an O-ring. You could get a general O-ring kit and replace that really easily. Don't be worried about breaking this seal right here. 99% of the time you don't manage to break it. And so right here we have our floats. Now if you have a dirty carb, if these aren't moving, don't worry, but don't try to force them, or else you'll be bending stuff that you don't want to be bending. So right here is your main jet, and up there, the smaller jet, is your pilot. And now the reason why you get a small flathead is because sometimes these jets are embedded in tunnels, and they're quite hard to get out without a small flathead, but here it's really easy. So basically, when cleaning a carb, you take off the bowl, take out the jets, and you examine them. Now for the main jet, they do have, you could use two options. Some will have two options, so you'll have a flathead option, and you could also have an option to use, I'm guessing, 7 or 8 mil. Now I'm just using vice grips just because I know that these aren't screwed in tight. But if it's a gunked up carb, I suggest you use a proper wrench, as it might be gunked. So once all your main jets are out, so this is going to be your main. Your main jet may not look like mine. It may look different, but the cleaning process is going to be the same. So you're going to want to look right through the center hole. You're going to want to blow out the old gas, and you're going to want to point it at a light. And if you don't see any light, you're going to want to take your torch tip and you're going to want to clean it. Now you don't want too big of a torch tip, and if your jet is not unclogging, a last ditch resort, you could hold it with a pair of pliers and heat it up. Because what happens is that the gas just goes solid in there, and with heat it all liquefies again. So if a torch tip doesn't work or a wire doesn't work, you can use heat as a last ditch effort. So when this is clean, you're going to want to take your compressed air. You're going to want to take your compressed air, your carb cleaner, your WD-40, whatever you're using to clean the carb. You're going to want to spray it into each one of these ports. You're going to want to clean out all the ports in the carb. That's very essential. So once those are clean, you can just put your jets back in. Now you don't want them too tight. This carb is aluminum, and you can crack these housings, so it's never happened to me, but you just want it to be snug, like just a little bit past snug. If you have a two-stroke machine, you're going to want to tighten it a bit more, as that two-stroke will rattle that jet loose. I've had that happen to me before. So once both these jets are clean, that's basically a carb clean right there. But if your float is stuck, your float, it should be moving just like mine. Now if it is stuck, there's a little pin right there in that housing that goes all the way through there. You're going to want to take something, if you don't have a pick, I'm sure you can find something to poke this out. Sometimes they are really buggers to get out. I think I remember this one being pretty tough. Now you don't want to put too much pressure. When you're getting this pin out, you're not going to want to put pressure on this, because they will and can break. Now this one doesn't seem to be budging. It's okay if I can't get it, because I'm sure you guys will be able to figure it out. Okay, so since I can't get that one undone, I'm just going to go grab a different carburetor so I can show you guys. Now this is just a snowmobile carburetor. The floats rest on here, and it's basically the same thing. Throughout all carburetors, it's going to be the same. So again, you have this rod that goes all the way through, and you're going to want to push that out. Now I couldn't get it out on the last one, so I just want to show you. Some carburetors it'll be easier. Sometimes there's a little ridge on the back pin, and you could grab it with a pair of pliers and you could rotate it free. Okay, so now once this pin is out, your float is going to be connected to here. You're going to want to take that off. You're going to want to set your pin aside, and right here is going to be your needle valve. Now if this doesn't move, it will stop the flow of gas to your carburetor, so it is essential to clean it. Now this one seems to be free, but this is what the needle valve will look like. Some needle valves will have a rubber tip, some will just be bare metal. Now, so if yours is stuck, you're going to want to clean the inside of that really good. And once you're done, just reverse the steps and put it all back together. It's really that simple. And again, this goes for all carburetors. You do not need to have a specific carburetor. All carburetors use the same principle. So basically, you just reverse your steps, put that rod right back through it, and done. So I'm going to go put this carb back. So once you have everything cleaned up in there, you're going to want to make sure the bottom of your bowl is clean. And once everything is moving in here and your jets are clean, you can go ahead and put this back together. Now some carbs will have either 3 or 4 bolts holding the bowl on. Mine has 3. So when you're doing this up, you don't want to just crank each one. You're going to want to make each one snug, just barely tight. And then you're going to want to go in a crisscross pattern. So since all these are snug, if you had 4 bolts, just imagine this one was gone and you had 2 more on the bottom. You're going to want to do 1, 2, and then 3, and then 4. So you're going to want to go crisscross. With a 3, you're just going to go and then that's crisscross. Now they're all pretty tight. I usually do 2 runs at it. And you don't want to crank these things really tight. Like again, you're going to want them a little bit past snug. These are not meant to have lots of torque applied to them. Now that's a basic carb clean done right there. You could go ahead, slap this back in your bike. But if you want to go a little bit further, you can clean these things. If your carb has these things back here, you can clean them. And here's your idle screw. So this, if your carb is a slide, watch out, there's a spring in here. Mine was just stuck a little bit. So that just that adjusts the height of where your slide is at. So the more you screw the more you screw it in, the higher the slide will go, giving you more throttle, giving you a higher idle. So once this is on your bike, and if it's idling a little bit too high, you could just go ahead and turn it down. And if it's idling a little bit too low, you can go ahead and turn it up. And that's how you tune your idle. And oh, forgot to mention something. Okay, so on these slides, once you disassemble them, this is not needed, but if your machine is not running right, I can't really zoom in here, but there's a little clip right there, and you're gonna see notches on yours. Now most carbs will come from the factory at the middle setting, and now if you move your clip down, it is going to raise your needle. So then that's going to activate your main jet faster. And if you move your clip up, it's going to activate your main jet slower. Now if you're bike isn't running right, I would not suggest playing with that needle because usually it's another cause. But for certain cases, that's how you adjust your main jet. Now we're almost done here. I want to mention one more thing. This screw right here is your air screw. Now sometimes you'll find it on the side of your carb, and don't mistake it for your idle screw. Your idle screw will always be right there unless you have a weird carb. Most carbs nowadays have the idle screw right there. And then some carbs will have the air screw either on that side or that side. Usually on this side. But this Chinese carb has it on the bottom. Now some carbs will have this. And the air screw adjusts the richness of your idle circuit. So if your bike is idling and it doesn't seem to be getting enough gas for the idle, don't turn up your idle. Instead, turn in your air screw. That will give you less air for your idle and give you more gas. Now if you see it's running a bit boggy right off the idle and you have to clear it up to get it to go past idle, then you're going to want to undo that half a turn. That gives you more air and less gas, giving you a leaner mixture. Now this only controls your idle circuit. It very little, it does not influence your main circuit that much. And so with that, that's a basic carb clean. So a little bit of an overview. All that matters for a carb clean is down here and your ports right here. You're going to want to clean those, and you're going to want to clean your jets down here. Make your float move freely. That's all you need to do for a carb clean. Make sure to not do up your screws too tight, and make sure to do it in a cross pattern so you don't bind something up. And that's basically all it is for a carb clean. It's pretty simple, eh? I hope that helps you guys. And so the reason why I explained everything is just because I just wanted to explain everything. But just remember, for a carb clean, all you need to focus about is down here. Okay, well I hope that helps you guys out a little bit. And see you next time.